فلما أتاها نودي يا موسى إني أنا ربك فاخلع عليك إنك بالوادي المقدس طوى وأنا اخترتك فاستمع لما يوحى إنني أنا الله لا إله إلا أنا فاعبدني وأقم الصلاة لذكري إن الساعة آتية نكاد أخفيها لتجزى كل نفس بما تسعى فلا يصدنك عنها من لا يؤمن بها واتبع هواه فتردى وما تلك بيمينك يا موسى قال هي عصاي أتوكأ عليها وأهش بها على غنمي ولي فيها مآرب أخرى قال ألقها يا موسى فألقاها فإذا هي حية تسعى قال خذها ولا تخف سنعيدها سيرتها الأولى واضمم يدك إلى جناحك تخرج بيضاء من غير سوء آية أخرى لنريك من آياتنا الكبرى اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي اشدد به أزري وأشركه في أمري كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا قال قد أوتيت سؤلك يا موسى ولقد مننا عليك مرة أخرى إذ أوحينا إلى أمك ما يوحى أن اقذفيه في التابوت فاقذفيه في اليم فليلقي اليم بالساحل يأخذه عدو لي وعدو له وألقيت عليك محبة مني ولتصنع على عيني إذ تمشي أختك فتقول هل أدلكم على من يكفله فرجعناك إلى أمك كي تقر عينها ولا تحزن وقتلت نفسا فنجيناك من الغم وفتناك فتونا فلبثت سنين في أهل مدين ثم جئت على قدر يا موسى واصطنعتك لنفسي اذهب أنت وأخوك بآياتي ولا تنيا في ذكري اذهبا إلى فرعون إنه طغى فقولا له قولا لينا لعله يتذكر أو يخشى قالا ربنا إننا نخاف أن يفرط علينا أو أن يطغى قال لا تخافا إنني معكما أسمع وأرى فأتياه فقولا إنا رسولا ربك فارسل معنا بني إسرائيل ولا تعذبهم قد جئناك بآية من ربك والسلام على من اتبع الهدى إنا قد أوحي إلينا أن العذاب على من كذب وتولى قال فمن ربكما يا موسى قال ربنا الذي أعطى كل شيء خلقه ثم هدى قال فما بال القرون الأولى قال علمها عند ربي في كتاب لا يضل ربي ولا ينسى الذي جعل لكم الأرض مهدا وسلك لكم فيها سبلا وأنزل من السماء ماء فأخرجنا به أزواجا من نبات شتى صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Thank you, Brother Abdul Rahim, for reciting Quran. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you all for continuing to come to our commemoration of the main Fatimiyyah. Thank you again, Sayyid Raza Naqvi, for accepting the invitation to come to Austin. I think we were supposed to have somebody recite Urdu poetry, but they're not here yet, so I will try to find something in English. And if they're not here by then inshallah we'll just start with the majlis. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Brandishing their torches, they stood outside her home. Come out and plead thy allegiance. We want power for our own. The assailants pounded even harder, and against the door it wasn't over of that lady mild and meek. The enemies of her husband struck her hard across the cheek. She cried out loud, "O Father, they've snapped the stem of your bud." And she carried her unborn infant, and she fainted in her blood. Her health rapidly diminished. Our Lady grew quiet and pale. She knew her time was coming. She ached and she was frail. She later called upon her husband, "Ali, stay by my side. I have some things to tell you, and my words you must abide. One request that I have for you is that once again you wed my niece who loves my children. I have chosen her in my stead. Heed these words of mine, O husband. Please don't let them attend my funeral, those who have done this, when my life comes to its end. O Ali, when you entomb me, don't dig a lonely grave. Dig several all around me, so they don't know where I am laid. And husband dear, you wash me and wrap me in my shroud. With your two strong arms embrace me and lay me in the ground. Once I'm there, do not forsake me. Sit by my lonely tomb, as my soul, like any mortal's, is fearful of its doom. God's will you cannot alter. I entrust my children unto thee. This maybe will console you. Of this world I will be free. She asked for her new garments and camphor her father had given, the scent of paradise that Jibreel brought as a gift to him from heaven. As her strength subsided and she knew her time was nigh, she made her ablution and towards the Qibla lay to die. She addressed her companion Asma, on her lips a secret smile. I am fatigued and I want to rest, so call me in a while. After an hour, when Asma called her, silence was the reply. She knew her desert flower had wilted and had died. As the news spread through the city, willing women gathered near, and men impatient to carry the body of Ali's Zahra dear. Abu Dhar called to the people, "Please, in vain don't you wait. Today her body won't be buried, as it is very late." Then quietly in the moonlight, with the chosen by his side, silently they bore the coffin of Ali's holy bride. And as Ali lowered her body to its final place of rest, two arms just like the Prophet's gathered her to its breast. Inconsolable and grieving, Ali's courageous heart then broke, and he gathered his motherless children, all tearful beneath his cloak. At the break of dawn, his house grew silent. As promised, he didn't disclose, nor did he answer any questions of where he buried his Arabian rose. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajam. It's already time 7:30, so inshallah, just quick introduction to Sayyid Raza Naqvi. He's coming to us from Chicago, but originally he is from Pakistan and studied in Hawza al-Miya Qum for about 7 to 8 years between 2011 to 2018. He didn't specify specifically what he studied, but he told me just to say, he's done his fiqh and usul. My favorites over the past 2 days. So in yesterday's speech, he makes a lot of connections with the verses of the Quran and the applicable examples in the real world or from the stories of the Ahlul Bayt. So yesterday, he was mentioning that Allah does not change the condition of the people unless they change the condition of themselves, and gave the example of how after 75 years, the people of Palestine, although no one would expect them to be able to resist the way they have. But now that they have changed their own condition, the whole world is chanting for the freedom of Palestine. And today he was talking about the ayah in the Quran that says, I'm paraphrasing, but if you have taqwa, then Allah will make doors open for you that you didn't know were possible, and provide sustenance from sources that you could not imagine, and gave the example of Fatima bint Asad. So just a couple examples of his connection of the Quran to your daily life and the example from the Ahlul Bayt. Inshallah, without further ado, if we can welcome him to the minbar with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh jamian. Inshallah, you all are requested to recite Surah Al-Fatiha for all the awliya, awsiya, anbiya, salihin, saddaqeen, shahda, your marhameen, our marhameen, and especially for the believers who would be part of these gatherings in the previous years, and especially for the brothers and sisters who have been brutally oppressed and martyred in Palestine in the recent 1 month and a half, inshallah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'een. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. Inshallah, for the acceptance of the majlis, recite a loud salawat. صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Inshallah, so the special attention from Allah, our master Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, be with us. Louder salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil faraj. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the right of Fatimah al-Zahra, salamullah alayha, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasten in the return from Allah, the Imam of time, Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, recite the loudest of the salawats. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil. Jazakumullah khairah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ما شاء الله ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله والثناء لله رب العالمين. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين. صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. ربي زدني علما وعملا والحقنا بالصالحين. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم. وقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في قرآن المجيد وكتاب الحميد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم: اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. يا علي وللصالح صلاة علامات يصلح ما بينه وبين الله تعالى بالعمل الصالح ويصلح دينه بالعلم ويرضى للناس ما يرضى لنفسه. Please read loud salawat. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. All praise and thanks is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who favored upon us and He connected us with the best of the households, the Ahl Bayt al-Nabuwa wa Ma'dan al-Risala, yani Muhammadu Ali Muhammad alayhim as-salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajahum. And we can never ever thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for filling our hearts with the love and affection and mawadda of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajahum. And this very favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it makes every other action of ours as a blessing. That is something which converts everything into a blessing and rahmah and mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The very Ali alayhi salam, for whom Rasulullah Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajahum, he said that Zikru Aliyun ibadah. The remembrance of Ali alayhi salam is ibadah, it's worshipping. The very Ali alayhi salam, for whom he had said multiple ahadith, he talked about him at multiple places throughout his life, and he distinguished him in every way possible. And there could be different people who can come and let us know about a characteristic of a person, right? At time, what happened is that if somebody comes and tells you that, all right, this is this person, and this person has this XYZ characteristics, moral values, or this is what the caliber is. When this is done, you don't really get sure of that, right? Because you don't really trust the person who's saying it. But a person like Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad farajahum, for whom Quran has said that he does not speak illa wahyun yuha, except but the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals something on him and then he says it, right? And when he says something, for example, he said that Ana madinatul ilm wa aliyun ba'buha, that I'm the city of knowledge and Ali alayhi salam is the door of that city of knowledge, and whoever wants to enter the city of knowledge and wisdom shall enter through the door, right? So now when he is saying all of these attributes, for example, he said, Ana wa Ali abawai hazil ummah. Me and Ali alayhi salam, we are the fathers of this nation. And it goes on. ضربة علي يوم الخندق أفضل إبا الثقلين. That one strike of Ali alayhi salam is better on the day of Khandaq than the ibadat of the whole universe, right? So when a person like him is praising Ali alayhi salam in this manner, there is no doubt You get sure that, all right, this X person has all that capability and ability which one is looking for in a person who you should be looking to follow in your life, right? So when we go back into the history and these Fatimiyyah, we were just connecting yesterday, is that whatever Fatimah Zahra salamullah alayha, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum, she did at that time, and she in the most firmest way stood up, and she was steadfast for that. It wasn't just about any ordinary, governance or somebody who would come and replace another ruler, right? It was about the humanity, the mankind, how they would be impacted in future. This is what we talked about. I don't mean to repeat myself. So if we start talking about that, Ali alayhi salam is that individual who has all of those qualities one should have in them to replace and represent the Prophet of Islam, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. So we are living in an era which is almost 1400 years after that event, right? So there are multiple ways to look at all of this. One of the way is the historical events, how it happened, why it happened, where it happened, who did what. That's one of the ways, right? And usually this is what we talk about. But there's another way to look at all of that, right? Obviously, we will have to look into history, but a different perspective of looking at it. When you want to look at an individual who should be representing that individual who is لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ, who can actually become a role model for everybody, right? You can either look into history, what happened, how it happened, who somebody was chosen, who was not chosen, and how all of these debates we have, bain al-madahib, right? There's another way to look at it, and that is that you go through an intellectual process, right? You say that if there is a place for somebody to be the leader, to be the one who's going to be in a position of guidance, or in a position where the person is going to be the manager, you would say that what are those qualities a person should have in them so that they're able to manage that. And that can start from the basic simple household, like a very simple family unit, right? You would say that a person who would have certain specific qualities should be able to be the head of the house, right? Or then you can, extend that and you would say, all right, we'll look at an organization, for example, a Husseiniya on Imam Barga or a center, who is going to be the person who's going to be leading that center. You would say that that person should have certain qualities in that person so that they're able to take care of that center in the best way and it moves forward toward the excellence. And then you wide it and you go toward, like, for example, a city, and then a state, then a country, and then you take it all the way to the whole universe, right? The criterion would be same. The criterion for somebody to be able to be in the leadership position is never going to be their relationship with somebody, how close they were with someone, or who they were. Rather, it will be about that what kind of qualities that individual have in them. Are those qualities the qualities which a person should have to be able to govern or not? It should be the basic criteria. It's like very intellectual processing, right? That if I want something to go in the best way, the person who should be in the leadership position should be somebody who's able to govern it, would have all those necessary qualities. And you would see that this is exactly what Prophet Islam Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum, is doing for Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. He is one by one specifying all of those qualities which an individual would need to be able to lead anyone and the whole community and the Muslim ummah and the universe. for Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajhum. That even if you are not able to read between the lines of history what happened, how it happened, you can actually look at these things which are going to be staying with the Muslim Ummah until the day of judgment between every madhab. That's the call, right? All of the ahadiths which I was narrating right now and the other ahadiths which are about Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, those are not the hadiths which a specific group would say that, oh, we have these about Ali alayhi salam. Rather, it is mentioned between all the madhahib. Everyone says that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had said this. Right? It's been Sahih Sitta and the other kutub, and it's everywhere out there. So when you look at those qualities and they are coming from Rasulullah, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajahum, then it is easy for people to digest it and absorb it and understand it, that the individual who should be representing, who should be the Khalifa, who should be somebody who would be taking the place of the Prophet of Islam, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad ajil farajahum, is that individual for whom Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying all those qualities. What do you need for governance? You need wisdom, you need knowledge, you need to have that intellectual capability, you need to have that understanding how things are run. And if you look at Ali alayhi salam, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam himself is saying all of those qualities for him. He is the most shaja, the most brave, most generous. Like, look at it. Like, if you keep looking at whatever, the person, when we're looking into the Islamic world, because the person who's going to be the leader of the Islamic Ummah should be somebody who should be guiding people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's saying that zikru Ali on ibadah, that remember Ali alayhi salam is ibadah itself, worshipping. That whenever you will remember him, you will remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So this is the concept which we are all reminded in Fatimiyyah always. Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha, when we look at her, when we look at what she did, the very first thing which comes to our mind is that, all right, that is something which was going on at that time, and people were going against the will of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. And Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha stood for that. Alhamdulillah, yesterday we started talking about this very beautiful verse of Quran, verse number 11 and the last part of it from Surah Ra'ad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in this verse, He's saying that Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Surely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not change the state of people, a nation, what they are on, unless hatta they themselves change it. And we started talking about this state could be a good state or it could be a bad state. And we gave the example of the time of the Prophet of Islam sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. That how when people, the message reached them and all of them who were able to grasp it and act upon it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changed them. Right? They were the weakest of them all at that time, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strengthened them, and they were able to overcome everybody in their time at that time. The change, right? They were in a very, very bad state, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought them back into an excellent state. Right? But what happened afterwards is also extremely important. That's the other side, right? If a person is in a good state, like we said, like it could be either you could be in a bad state or you could be in a good state. It won't change for you unless you change it for yourself. Now, tonight, let's talk about being in a good state, right? So, state could also be the materialistic state or the spiritual state. When we look at ourselves, because we, as individuals, we have a material side and a spiritual side. As a human being, I have a body and a soul. And this is what our claim is, that Islam, the complete religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, caters both of them. It caters your body as well, it caters your soul as well, and it helps you get to the excellence of both of them, the perfection. Right? So, you are in a good state from both material and spiritual perspective. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to change it for you. Allah doesn't change it. Unless you are going to change it for yourself. And how do you change yourself? Now, that's something which, if we ponder on it, it can help us understand a lot of happenings in the world. A lot of what happened to us, or what is going to happen to us in future. For example, you were in a good financial state. You had a good job. You had a good business. You were profiting. Or you were in a good spiritual state. You were able to do all your obligation. You were able to wake up for Fajr, Dhuhr, Maghrib, Isha. You were able to do it. Even you had the tawfiq and blessing to do Salat Tahajjud. You were able to wake up even before Fajr. It is not going to randomly change. It's not that one day you woke up and randomly Allah changed it for you. One day randomly you woke up and your sustenance is gone. Right? Allah is saying that Allah doesn't change the state of people. In between, we can touch the topic of qada and qadr as well. Right? So we can say, all right, when you're saying that, what happens to qada or qadr, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already specified for you. Even though that is not my topic, but I want to touch it a bit. Qada and qadr is also of two kinds. Hatmi and ghair hatmi. The one which has to be there definitely is going to happen. And the other one, the changeable one. Ghair hatmi. And also, even for the one which is hatmi. For example, let's go for the example of ghair hatmi for the changeable ones. They say that depending on how you're living your life, your lifeline is going to be changed. For example, there was an accident written for you when you were 25. If you had done sadaqah, you won't die, but if you hadn't done sadaqah, you would die. Or you were supposed to get a disease at the age of 50. If somebody would do dua for you, you're not going to die. If they're not going to do it, you will die. And then goes on, there are different timelines. If you do dua, if you do sadaqah, if you do this charity, XYZ, you'll be saved. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has specified the maximum number of years for you, and that is hatmi, definite. It's not going to change. Regardless, you're doing sadaqah, somebody praying for you, praying for your own self, going for ziyarat, everything, that is the maximum of what Allah has written for you. It is not going to change. That's like the hatmi one. And we don't even know. That's the part we don't know. We can't see. We can't see behind the wall. It could be thousands of years. It could be, maybe 50, 70, 120. We don't know, right? That's the whole thing. We can't see behind the wall. But how you would get to that hatmi thing? For example, in the definite one, it is written for you that you're going to, for example, become rich at a time. In 2030, you are going to have a lot of money on you. That is Allah specified for you. Or in 2025, you're going to get extreme. May Allah protect us all. But for example, it's written there. Okay, even though that is definite, but how are you going to get it is going to be on you. Right? Depending on what you will be doing, even though you're going to become rich or poor, it will be on you how you get to that state. Are you going to become rich by doing a profitable business, halal, tayyib, proper one? Or are you going to go steal and bribe and get to that? That's on you. And again, how you will be getting to it would have impact on you. Or are you going to get poor? Are you going to get poor just like randomly it's written for you? Or it's something which you are going to be doing is going to get you to that point, right? And then if you were living your life as per the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you become poor, how you're going to be behaving is going to be completely different than if you are going to become poor while you're disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your state of poverty is going to be very different. So even keeping that mind about the qada and qadr, but coming back to what we were talking about. If you're in a good physical state or a spiritual state, it's never going to be randomly changed. There are going to be reasons behind it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying over here in this Surah Ra'ad, verse number 11, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not change the condition instead of people what they are on unless they change it for themselves. So now when you're in a good state, you have a good job, you have sustenance, or you're good spiritual state, it is not going to randomly change for you. There is something which you are doing or you will be doing which is going to impact that. This is why just yesterday in Dua Kumail, you also read those sentences from Amir al-Mu'mineen Imam al-Muttaqeen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajam. And what do you say? When you're calling upon Allah subhanahu in the very beginning of Dua Kumail, Allahumma aghfir lidh-dhunub allati tughayyiru an-na'am. Oh Allah, forgive for me those of my sins, because of them my blessings they are changed. Allahumma aghfir dhunub allati, and then it goes on, oh Allah, forgive for me those of my sins, which becomes the reason for the bala to be coming upon me. And then it goes on, right? One by one, you're saying that your action, it is me. Again, in Dua Kumail, this is a reminder. Zalamtu nafsi. Oh Allah, it was me who oppressed my own self when I went against you. Right? So, in your life, may it be your material state, may it be your spiritual state, if it is changing, it is going to be because of you. So at times when we are in a very good state, spiritual one, we end up doing things which are going to get us out of that. Right? In the same way how when we are messed up, the only way, may it be a spiritual mess up or a financial or materialistic mess up, the only way to get out of that is by doing an action. Right? You need to act. You need to do something to change their state. Right? Quran says that لَيْسَ الْإِنسَانَ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. For human beings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has only specified what they strive for. Right? Also, we just talked about that in the morning as well. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has specified certain rules and regulations and bylaws for this world. And there are some universal truths which exist, and they're always going to be out there. Regardless, a person is going to act upon them 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, or they're going to act upon them 100 years later. They're always going to be like that. So this is also one of those qawa'id. What is that? لَيْسَ الْإِنسَانَ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. For human beings, it's only what they strive for. So sometimes we listen to these ayat and we say, all right, now I know that I'm only going to achieve what Allah has written for me. That's it. But we miss on a point that what is that we have to strive in? Right? Is it just anything we're going to do and we'll achieve something, or something specific? For example, you want to make like a chair. Right? You want to get to the final result, you want to have a chair. If you just stand at a corner and start like punching the wall, will you ever be, it's like a very silly example, but I want us to understand this, right? Because when the things get complex, we're not able to understand these things because they get complex. But if you want to achieve a chair eventually, the final result you want is to get a chair. By just punching on the wall, would you ever get a chair? Is that only striving going to help you? I'm striving, I'm really punching hard. No, it's never going to get you a chair. Then what it means? It means that you need to know how to get to the chair. You need to know you need material, you need external power, you need the right material for that. And like, you need certain XY material to use. And then if you put all in together in one specific way, all the causes that get together, and then the chair would come in. Right? So we say that you need illat ta'ama, the complete cause for an effect. Whenever you're looking for an effect, you need to have a complete cause for that. Again, now, this laysa al-insan illa ma sa'a, you need to work on the right certain things, then you will get the required result. For that, it is necessary for us to understand how this world works. And how are we going to find that out? When we look at Quran Hakim and the sayings of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajum. We talked about this yesterday, right? One of the reasons why Imam Ali alayhi salam, he being able to represent the Muslim Ummah, and him being able to be the replacement of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, for his Khalifa. It is extremely important, is that because he would be somebody, when you look at him, when you look at his action, his lifestyle, he is going to get you to that success, that final conclusion you want to achieve. And we refer to the maqsad al-hayat, the reason for this life, the aim of this life, illa liya'budun, except for worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, recognizing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So when you look at Quran and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam's preaching and their teachings, then only you would understand what success is. Right? What is that what you need to achieve? If you are going to be disconnected to Quran and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, then you might not be even striving for the right thing. Or even maybe at times you want to strive. Another example, right? For example, say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the actual goal of everyone. Liqa'ullah. This is why if you look at some of the best of the people in the world who were able to sacrifice their lives or did really great things, when you ask them, what is your wish? You would find they would say, Liqa'ullah. We want to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now obviously, everyone is going to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but depending on who you were, what your actions were, either you're going to see Him in His mercy, not in the physical meaning, but the metaphysical meaning of seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obviously, Allah is greater than that somebody can actually physically see Him. But either you're going to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that metaphorical meaning that you're going to be in His mercy, or you're going to see Him in while He is angry with you. But eventually, they say liqa'ullah. They want to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a state where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is welcoming to them. Allah's mercy has surrounded them. That's the eventual wish they want, right? So now, for example, you also have realized that my goal, my aim in life is to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want to become an arif. I want to become somebody who recognizes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, even if you have, first, there could be a case where you don't even have the right goal. Maybe for you, success is having all the facilities and money and everything in the world. For you, that's success. Right? I want to achieve the best of the profitable, most profession and job and businesses so I can make the most money out there. It could be an aim, right? Even for that aim, you would need the right ways to get to it. You need to understand how the system of sustenance in this world works. It's not just by working. And it's a very simple example. Like, for example, if a person, we have seen it, some people, they work for 24 hours, like whole day long. And obviously that's an exaggerated one. But they work for a long, long time, and they just make few bucks. And there are individuals out there, they work for a few hours, and they're making a lot of money. So it's not about working hard only. It's not about how much you're going to work. There's more to it. So unless you understand the system of sustenance, for example, our ayat, they say that if you stay in wudu all the time, Allah increases your sustenance, increases your life. Obviously, when your life increases, your sustenance increases. You'll have more time to have more, right? They say silatul rahim, maintaining ties with your immediate family members, maintaining ties with your parents, your father, your mother, your sister, your brother, your uncle, your aunt, your cousins. The closer they are, the more responsibility you have. It increases your sustenance. Because it increases your life. It saves you from bad accidents. And XYZ. All the goodness can be collected in Silatul Rahim. Right? And on the contrary, all the evil can be, you can find it in Qatul Rahim. That you disconnect with your immediate family members. You stop talking to your parents for whatever reason. Even if they had wronged you. This is why we look at the dua from Sayyid al-Sajidin, Imam Zain al-Abidin, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. You would see the dua where in any case, for God forbid, your parents were not able to give you your rights. For whatever reason, they were not able to be the best parents ever. Still, Imam alayhi salam, they say that you have to be good with them. Right? So if you do Qatul Rahim, all the evil comes to you. Bad accident, less life. Obviously, when you're going to die early, your sustenance also decreases for sure, right? So, even those material things in this life, if you want to achieve them, you need to know what you got to do. If you don't know the right pattern and right path toward it, you will fail. So now look at something which is the actual goal. Material was never a goal, because وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. This life is nothing except for it's just like a fake possession. Mata'ul ghurur, a fake possession, like it's not even real. It's like how you play Monopoly and the other games, Catan, and you have all that money on you. It might be a lot. You own states and states, right? But in reality, you can only benefit from that money, or the digital games, those coins, gold coins. You can have 100,000 gold coins in the game, but you can only benefit from those gold coins in that moment in that game. And once you're out of that game, they have no value. Maybe playing that game really well can get you something real in the other parts of life. Quran is saying, وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. This life is nothing but mere possession. That whatever you have in this life is only going to benefit you within this life. That's it. And this is exactly why we have this hadith which says that Rasulullah Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad ajil farajahum. He rightly said that, this dunya is a farm for the hereafter. You can only use this dunya to get the return in the hereafter. Whatever you're going to be doing in this dunya, you will be able to see that in the hereafter. So, even for the material part of the world, you need to know the right way. But even, for example, you got the right goal and aim. You want to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Still, for that, you need to follow the right pattern. And this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to be connected to the teachings of Quran and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. When you try to achieve the needs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how Allah wants you to do it, then only you're able to get to them. This is why the verses of Quran, they talk about this. Ati'ullah wa ati'ur rasul wa ul amri minkum. Obey Allah. Allah could have stopped right there and then. Right? Obviously, we know as Muslims that the Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad farajum, is not going to say anything beyond what Allah is going to say. Right? So what's the point of saying wa ati'ur rasul? And then didn't even stop there. Wa ulil amri minkum, those of you who Allah has given the authority on you. Are they going to say something other than Allah? Obviously, if they're going to do, they can't be in that place. Because eventually you want. But Allah is saying that obey Allah and obey the Prophet. Because anybody and everybody can come and claim that they are obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How would you know? Look around yourself in the world, what is happening. People come and claim, say, we are obeying Allah. We are worshipping the God. So anybody can come and claim. Allah says that وَأَتِيُوا الرَّسُولِ. If you really want to have that claim, then you have to obey the Prophet who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has appointed as the best role model for you all. If you're going to follow him, then only you're following Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even if you have the right goal, that aim to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you want to get Allah's nearness, you need to know the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you are not going to use that path, for example, Surah Hamd. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Allah show us the right path. Right after, siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. Not just like Allah saying, show us the path of those who you have blessed. You have to have that right path. It's just like randomly you can just go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, there's a path, there's a way. So now once we understand that, what is that path? Right? What is that thing which we need to change in our life, that we can get back onto that track? So inshallah, we will further continue this discussion, but I want to talk about that very hadith from Rasulullah, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad ajil farajum. Inshallah, I'll mention the first portion of it today. He said that Ya Ali is one of those places where he is directly talking to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Mawla is talking to Mawla. It's those very few beautiful places, and he's directly telling him, he's saying, Ya Ali, walis salih salasu alamat. For a righteous person, there are 3 signs. Saleh. How we say Aba Saleh, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Saleh is the somebody who does the righteous act. Right? Aba Saleh, the father of the righteous. Right? So he's saying that, oh Ali alayhi salam, for the righteous person, there are three signs. Right? Then he says that يُصْلِحُ مَا بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى بِالْعَمَلِ الصَّالِحِ. The condition for a person to become a salih person is that that person fixes what is between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through amal salih. And that also is if you're in a bad state, may it be a spiritual bad state or a physical, financial, material bad state. If you are a salih person, righteous person, he's saying that you will be fixing that is what is between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through amal salih. Now the question arises, what is that amal salih? What makes an action amal salih? Why is amal salih very important? Right? So if you look at the verses of Quran, Quran specifies, if you notice also in the beginning of the majlis, I said that Rabbi zidni ilma wa amala walhiqna bis salihin. Oh Allah, increase in my knowledge and my action and connect me with the righteous people. Right? So that's the dua which we had heard from ulama, and it's from Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, goes back to them. That you want this, Allah, increase in my knowledge and action and connect me with the righteous. What is that righteousness? What is that amal salih? What makes an action amal salih? Why is it so important? If you look at the verse of Quran, Quran says that the only thing which get irfa, which elevates, which actually is accepted in that meaning is amal salih. Right? So you know how in Tashahhud we say, we pray for Hazrat Muhammad the Mustafa, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa rafa' darajat. Oh Allah, increase and elevate his ranks. Wa taqabbal shafa'atu, and accept his shafa intercession. What is that amal salih? That is the only thing as per Quran is going to be accepted. So if you look at any action, it could have an apparent state and could have a spiritual and the inner state of that action. And I'm not just saying that apparent good side and a actual bad side of it. Even if you look at a good action, right? We're not talking about the bad actions right now. Not talking about the haram things, even the positive good things. For example, if you want to look at a salat or wudu or a Husainiya Imam Barga, right? A masjid, they're apparently really good actions. Right? But when are they going to become amal salih? Right? For example, we say a salat to be a salat is that it needs to have the intention of what? You are going to do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Qurbatan ilallah. I am doing it so I can get the qurb and nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what you have been told all your life, right? If you want an action to be an ibadat, for example, you stand for wudu. For whole day you stand and keep washing your face and arms and, without the intention of qurban Allah. I'm not saying to say it out loud, but to actually have the intention of doing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just randomly somebody stands and do it. He would never ever get wudu done. Or a person stands up for salat without the intention of salat, that I'm doing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, keep standing up in qiyam and go to ruku and sujood without the intention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they can do it their whole life and it's not going to be ibadat. Because the essence of ibadat is missing in that. Right? What is that essence? Qurbatan ilallah. So if a person, for example, let's take my example, right? I'm here in IABA-Fatimiyyah making a speech. I might be doing, if I'm sincere, at least to this extent, that what I'm going to say is going to be the right thing from Quran and Hadith. Right? And because it is the right thing, it is going to benefit everybody who came here for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the love of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, for Fatimah Zahra salamullah alayha, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad ajil farajahum. Still, it is not going to become an amal salih for me, even though it is benefiting everybody else. Except for me, unless I have this intention that I'm doing it for lillah billah. The purity of the intention that this, what I'm doing, apparently it is a great action. You remember Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha, you're reading Quran, you're reading a hadith, and you're crying for her, and everybody else is benefiting. But the only time it is going to qualify for an amal saleh, and for me it is going to become amal saleh, and an action for me is going to elevate and get irfa and get accepted, is that if I'm doing it lillah billah for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because God forbid, if I did not have that intention, everybody else will benefit except for me. Like for example, a person makes a Hussainiya or a masjid, gives a lot of money and donate, and God forbid they do not have that intention where they're doing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maybe, na'udhu billah, they're doing it for showing off. Everybody else would come and benefit except for them. So, amal saleh, which the hadith is saying that one of the signs of a saleh person, a righteous person, is that they fix what is between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through an amal saleh. What is between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our intentions, Allah's commandments, the moral value system Allah has introduced to us, the theological system which we need to have, firm belief on. And the only time we are able to fix that is by doing something which is going to have the purest of the intentions for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is how you're also changing yourself. Right? Allah said, Allah never going to change the state of people unless and until they change for themselves. The most initial and the basic thing a person can change is the purity of the intention. And why so? Because Allah says in Quran, Antumul fuqara ilallah wal ghaniyul hamid. You all are needy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is already all praise and needless. Don't ever think that what am I doing, what something I'm doing that's what Allah needs. No. Allah doesn't need anything. He is, we say, Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad. He is the needless, but rather everybody else needs Him. Right? So if we change that for us, if we change our intention, if we make it pure, then only one by one, everything for us will start changing. And inshallah, we'll talk further about it in the coming nights, inshallah. Let's take our hearts towards Medina. Ya Zahra, Ya Sayyid al-Nisa'i Ahl al-Jannah, Ya Biddatul Rasul. Allahu Akbar. When you look at the tragedy of Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha, is something which a person can't even imagine. It is so, what they did to her is so evil that you start doubting that even happened. That's not even an expectation that this could be something which can happen. Imagine that very door, out of all the doors which would open in a masjid, you see what happened in the history, everything is aligning. They say a lot of people's houses door, because when they started living in Medina, they started living around the Masjid Naqvi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and they would enter directly from their houses to masjid. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded that you should close all the doors except for the door of Fatima Zahra Salamullah. That very door is the door where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they says in narrations that whenever he was about to leave Medina, that would be the last door he would come and then go out of Medina. And whenever he wants to come back to Medina, that would be the very first door he would come to. And they say when Ayat al-Tahir was revealed, it was the sunnah of the Prophet that he would come to that door. He would come to that door. He would remind everyone about the verse, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Innama yuridullah. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has this intention, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want these Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, these are the pure ones. It's Allah's intention, nothing can change that. And for everybody to know that this is the door of Ahlul Bayt, he would say, Assalamu alaikum ya Ahlul Bayt an-Nabuwa. Just not one day, twice. It was his sunnah. He would come and stand at the door of Fatima. He would say, Assalamu alayka ya Ahl Bayt an-Nabuwa. That very door of Fatima. I wonder, it is hard for us to accept that even that the Prophet ﷺ would go to a door that regularly stand there. Those individuals who he would gather in the Kisa, and he would say, when Fatima, even Allah introduces them as Fatima wa Abuha wa Ba'aluha wa Banu. This is the household of the Prophet of Islam. You cannot imagine that not that long after the Prophet is like, after the 75 or 95 days, Fatima Zahra Salamullah had left the world already. This event happened right after, not even that long, the Prophet of Islam had left this world. People gathering at the door of Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha. I wonder why it has been narrated that Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha had said, maybe she is calling her father, Ya Rasulullah, Ya Abata, what had come on me? If it had came on the days, they would have turned into dark nights, Ya Zahra. What have they done to you? I was just reading in the morning, somebody saw Agha Bahjat, and while after he's done with his ziyarah and his dua, and he's reading something, and he started crying out loud. The person said, I waited until Agha Bahjat got quiet, and I asked him, Agha, what are you saying? He was saying under lips, Ya Zahra, what have they done to you? Oh, the daughter of Prophet, what have they done to you? Wasn't that enough? I would say, Ya Zahra, wasn't that enough that they did not let you cry in your house? Amir al-Mu'mineen had to build Baytul Huzn. They would say, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, tell Fatima Zahra, either cry during the day or cry during the night. Our sleep is disturbing. How qareeb have Ahlul Bayt become in their own household? Ya Zahra, I wonder how hard it was for you that one day you said to Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ya Ali, I have heard when you say salam and when you say Ya Ali, they do not say salam to you. And you know what Amir al-Mu'mineen had to say? Say, Ya Zahra, it's not only about that. Not only they don't say salam to me. Zahra, when I say salam to them, they don't even respond. Imagine how hard it was for Zahra, who from her childhood had been advised about Ali. Even on the deathbed, the Prophet would say he would remind Zahra Salamullah alayha, Ali, Ya Zahra, what they had done to your Ali. The door of Fatima to Zahra Salamullah alayha, who would have imagined that they would come gather around that door, and when they get what they wanted, they would put fire on that door. We have this question, Ya Zahra, what and how it happened that you were behind that door and wall? Ask your own self, who would imagine that the daughter of the Prophet would be standing behind the door, and they would put fire on the door, and they would kick. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون رضا بكذا وتسليما بأمره.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra,
Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra. आधी रात की तारीकी में लेकर चश्मे तार मेरे मौला आ जाते हैं कब्र ज़हरा पर हाय करबे इमाम ज़माना कब्र ज़हरा पर या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा सर को झुकाकर कब्र पे आकर रोते रहते हैं जाने छुप के क्या क्या मौला कहते हैं सुब्बत अलैया की है सदा मरकद के अंदर या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा गैबत के पर्दे में हूँ महरूमी तो देखें दादी अपने पोते की मज़लूमी तो देखें दादी मेरी आँखों में है शाम का हर मंज़र या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा रात की औस है दिन की धूप है आज़ार यहाँ कब्र के ऊपर साए का भी कोई नहीं इम्कान जैसे ज़ैनब और कुसुम के सर पे नहीं चादर या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा जैसे बादे असर हुआ था लाश पिसर का हाल माँ की मरकद को कर डाला जालिम ने पामाल दूर तलक बस रेत है फैली मिट्टी और कंकर या ज़हरा या ज़हरा दादी आपके पास है अब भी कुर्ता असगर का दादी मुझको बस लेना है मौसिन का बदला आप दुआ दे खुल जाए बस गैबत का ये दर या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा हाथ में है इस वक्त भी मेरे हैदर की तलवार मैं तो हर एक सूरत में हूँ आने को तैयार रो के कमर मौला ने कहा तैयार नहीं लश्कर या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा या ज़हरा Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Hussein. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا حبيب الله، السلام عليك محمد بن عبد الله خاتم النبيين، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب، السلام عليك فاطمة ست النساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا خد الكبرى، السلام عليك مولاي أبا محمد حسن بن علي، السلام عليك مولاي أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت بقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد منا لزيارتكم. All together. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى بن الفضل العباس وزينب الكبرى وأم البنين. السلام عليك مولاي علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر. السلام عليك مولاي علي بن موسى الرضا المرتضى. السلام عليك مولاي محمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد وحسن بن علي الزكي العسكري. السلام عليك مولانا يا صاحب العصر والزمان، اللمان 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 من فتن الزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك مظهر الإيمان. السلام عليك كامل الكفر والطغيان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك، سهل الله تعالى مخرجك، وجعلنا من أنصاره وعوانه والمستشهدين بين يدي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد.